Hi, I'm Nia. I'm 21, a communications student, and I spend most of my time ensuring that the world, especially the corner of it I inhabit at this advertising agency, operates with integrity and awareness. My job here, officially an intern, feels more like a judicial position, a digital inquisitor, if you will. I believe every interaction, every glance, every casual remark is a political act, a battleground where power dynamics play out. There's no such thing as neutrality. You're either off the problem or off the solution, and I'm dedicated to exposing the former. My latest project, or rather, my latest observation in this grand tapestry of corporate microaggressions, began subtly. Our agency, Creative Nexus, prided itself on fostering a vibrant, youthful culture. On the surface, that meant beanbag chairs and kombucha on tap. But beneath the veneer, I sensed a simmering pot of unspoken expectations. That pot boiled over when our new HR manager, a woman named Eileen who seemed to confuse forced cheerfulness with genuine connection, announced the Creative Nexus Bonding Initiative. It was a series of mandatory after-hours socials. The first one was a team board game night. I saw the eye rolls, the tight smiles, the barely concealed groans from my colleagues. I, however, saw opportunity. This wasn't just about playing Catan, I knew. This was a power play, a subtle test of loyalty and conformity. Who would dissipate with genuine enthusiasm? Who would feign it? And who would dare to resist? I pulled out my phone, as I always do. It's not just a communication device, it's my primary tool for evidence collection. Every conversation, every awkward silence, every forced laugh could be a clue, a piece of data to analyze, to dissect. I began documenting the atmosphere, the hushed whispers of discomfort, the way some male colleagues subtly dominated the game choice, overlooking the suggestions of their female counters. See, I typed into my private notes app, the patriarchy seeps into even the most harmless of activities. It's never just a game. I started a new thread on a niche, activist-focused social media platform I frequented, vaguely alluding to corporate coercion tactics disguised as fun, and watched the likes trickle in. It was a small victory, but it validated my perspective. My truth was their truth, and their digital support fueled my conviction. The board game night was, to my meticulous observation, a muted disaster. People kept glancing at their watches, phones hidden beneath tables, their smiles fading into polite grimaces by 9 o'clock. Eileen, however, beamed, declaring it a resounding success. Team spirit is through the roof, she announced in the morning stand-up, oblivious to the glazed-over eyes and the extra-large coffee cups. My internal monologue, however, was already crafting the narrative. This wasn't team spirit, it was collective trauma. This was an infringement on personal time, a corporate expectation that bled into the sacred space of individual autonomy. And yet, no one spoke up. That silence, I knew, was a form of complicity, an acceptance of the status quo. I couldn't stand by and let that happen. My phone was already recording the meeting, just a quiet voice memo, capturing the forced enthusiasm in Eileen's tone, the barely audible sighs from others. I'd edit it later, of course, remove the filler, isolate the key moments of discomfort. Context, for me, was about highlighting the truth, not necessarily presenting every mundane detail. The Creative Nexus Bonding Initiative continued with relentless enthusiasm from HR, if not from the staff. Next up was a creative brainstorm and cocktail hour, a thinly veiled attempt to extract unpaid creative labor while simultaneously forcing socializing. I saw through it immediately. My social media posts became more direct, more pointed. When companies leverage fun to blur work-life boundaries, it's not bonding, it's exploitation, I wrote, attaching a carefully cropped photo of the invitation, censoring company details, but leaving enough to suggest corporate overreach. The likes and comments poured in. Preach queen. Tell Nia. This was my validation, my echo chamber affirming that I was right, that my observations were not only valid but necessary. In the office, however, my directness was met with less enthusiasm. During the cocktail hour, which I attended with my phone discreetly recording from my jacket pocket, I overheard Mark, a senior designer, complaining to a colleague about how tired he was. I just want to go home and see my kids, he mumbled, sipping his soda. I immediately interjected, my voice cutting through the ambient chatter. Mark, wanting to go home can be interpreted as a lack of commitment to the team, I said, my tone even, but firm. And using my kids as an excuse could be seen as weaponizing family responsibilities, implying that others without children have less valid reasons for wanting their private time respected. Mark blinked at me, soda halfway to his mouth. His colleague looked away, embarrassed. Nia, I just meant I'm tired, Mark stammered. I shook my head slightly. Intent doesn't negate impact, Mark. Your words have a ripple effect on the team morale, creating an expectation that personal life is less important than corporate-mandated socializing. I felt a familiar surge of satisfaction. I had identified a microaggression, called it out, and made him confront his potentially harmful rhetoric. This was how change happened. It was uncomfortable, yes, but necessary. My constant vigilance, however, started to create a different kind of ripple effect. Colleagues began to shy away from me. Casual conversations would halt when I approached. My word policing had become legendary, and not in the way I'd hoped. I recalled an incident where I'd corrected a marketing manager for using guys to address a mixed gender group. It's gender-inclusive language, Nia, it's fine, he'd said dismissively. I'd then proceeded to deliver a detailed explanation, citing multiple academic sources on linguistic biases. He'd just walked away mid-sentence. Clearly, some people were simply resistant to progress. But I wouldn't be deterred. The online community understood. They saw the value in my relentless pursuit of correctness, in my refusal to let problematic language or behavior slide. Don't let the patriarchy silence you, one comment read, reinforcing my belief that I was a lone warrior in a sea of complacency. The two best employees at Creative Nexus were Melissa and Can. Melissa, a brilliant graphic designer, was known for her innovative concepts and quiet efficiency. Can, a senior copywriter, had a knack for turning complex briefs into captivating narratives. They were the backbone of many successful campaigns, always delivering exceptional work, but they were also noticeably reserved during these bonding initiatives. Melissa would offer polite excuses, feeling unwell, or prior engagement, always vague, always apologetic, but firm in her non-attendance. Ken would show up, but only for the minimum required time, his phone often buzzing with notifications, his attention clearly elsewhere. I observed their behavior with growing suspicion. Their reluctance to fully embrace the team spirit felt like a subtle act of defiance, a quiet rejection of the collective. And for me, that was just as problematic as an overt microaggression. I started targeting them more subtly in my online posts. Without naming them, I would write about the privilege of opting out, the selfish act of prioritizing personal time over collective growth, and how individualistic tendencies undermine true team cohesion. My online followers agreed. Their comments painted Melissa and Ken as relics of an outdated, individualistic corporate culture. In my mind, I was holding them accountable, pushing them to be more engaged, more aware. I truly believed I was helping to improve the workplace, to make it a more equitable, more unified space. My followers, often echoing my own sentiments back to me, reinforced this belief. They saw the injustice, the systemic issues, the subtle forms of oppression I was fighting against. It was empowering, intoxicating even, to be at the forefront of this digital crusade. The bonding initiatives grew more frequent, more demanding. Eileen announced a mandatory weekend retreat, ostensibly for strategy development, but clearly designed to further erode any remaining personal boundaries. It was to be held at a remote cabin, requiring an overnight stay. Melissa and Ken were visibly distraught during the announcement. Melissa, for the first time, spoke up directly. Eileen, I really value my weekends. This feels like an overstep, she said, her voice unusually strained. Ken nodded in agreement. My family time is non-negotiable. This isn't just about team building anymore. It's about respecting our lives outside of work. Eileen, ever the picture of forced enthusiasm, smiled tightly. But this is such a unique opportunity to truly connect. Think of the breakthroughs we'll have. She brushed aside their concerns, framing them as minor inconveniences compared to the glorious benefits of team synergy. I felt a surge of indignation. Here they were, two of the most privileged employees, complaining about a free weekend retreat designed to benefit everyone. This was the epitome of their selfishness, their inability to see beyond their own desires. I pulled out my phone. This was crucial. I started recording. It's always the ones who benefit most from the system who complain the loudest when asked to contribute. I typed furiously into my anonymous social media account, still recording the meeting. Their personal time is more important than building a stronger community. Such performative resistance. My phone screen glowed with agreement, dozens of likes, comments validating my assessment. The virtual echo chamber amplified my rage, transforming their quiet pleas for boundaries into a public spectacle of ungratefulness. I was a digital judge, and the verdict was clear. They were guilty of undermining the collective. The atmosphere in the office became toxic. A palpable tension hung in the air, a silent protest against the ever-encroaching demands of the bonding initiatives. Melissa and Ken started looking visibly drained, their usual spark replaced by a weary resignation. I saw it as a sign of their inherent resistance, their refusal to adapt. My online posts grew more aggressive, fueled by the real-time observations of their declining morale. When people refuse to adapt to a positive change, it's often because they benefit from the outdated, toxic system, I wrote, blurring the line between my personal interpretation and objective fact. Their exhaustion is a luxury, afforded by the labor of others. I felt like I was fighting a righteous battle, exposing the flaws in the system, one problematic individual at a time. The social media validation was my lifeblood. Every like, every share, every supportive comment was proof that I was on the right side of history, that I was making a difference. Then came the email. A cold, formal announcement from HR. Melissa and Ken had resigned. Effective immediately. Their joint resignation letter, which was circulated internally, a bold move, I thought, probably meant to shame them, explicitly stated their reasons: a consistent and growing disregard for employee personal time and boundaries, and an inability to reconcile corporate expectations with a healthy work-life balance. The email acknowledged their invaluable contributions and wished them well. I reread it, a chill running down my spine. Two of the best gone. Just like that. I immediately reached for my phone, ready to launch into a full-scale digital indictment. This was it, their true colors exposed. They were abandoning the team, proving my earlier assessments correct. But something felt different this time. The office was eerily quiet. No one was making jokes. No one was smiling. The buzz of activity was replaced by a heavy silence, a collective sigh. My manager, typically upbeat, looked genuinely distressed. Eileen, the HR manager, paced her office, her usually bright facade crumbling. Suddenly, my online echo chamber felt distant, muted. I opened my social media, ready to post about the self-serving nature of certain individuals, but my fingers hesitated. I saw an influx of comments, but not the usual adulation. "Are you sure this is the right take, Nia?" one asked. "Maybe they really were just tired," another ventured. "Sometimes people need their space." A small crack appeared in my virtual world, a tiny sliver of doubt piercing through the reinforced walls of my convictions. Could it be? Could I have misjudged? No, it felt too jarring, too sudden a shift. The next day, a meeting was called. Not a bonding initiative, but a somber, mandatory meeting with senior management and Eileen. The mood was grim. Our CEO spoke first, his voice tight. "Melissa and Ken's door is a significant loss to Creative Nexus. We are reviewing our policies, particularly regarding after-hours engagements." Eileen, her face pale, apologized sincerely. I realize now that my intentions, while good, did not align with the needs of our team. I failed to listen. Then, something truly unexpected happened. Mark, the senior designer I had publicly shamed at the cocktail hour, stood up. He spoke softly, but his voice carried. "I think we all need to take a look at how we treat each other," he said, glancing pointedly in my direction. "Some of us have been too quick to judge, too quick to criticize, even record each other, creating an environment where people felt they couldn't just be themselves or express genuine concerns without fear." My blood ran cold. He knew. They all knew. The camera on my phone, The one I had used as my weapon suddenly felt like a heavy stone in my pocket. My carefully curated online narrative, my triumphant exposés, my celebrated critiques, all started to unravel in my mind. The likes, the comments, the digital affirmations, they felt hollow, detached from the very real, very painful silence that now enveloped the room. My phone buzzed with a notification. It was a message from one of my most loyal online followers. Heard what happened. Your justice seems to have driven away good people. You went too far, Nia. Another message followed. You built your empire on tearing others down. It's time to face the consequences. My carefully constructed digital identity was crumbling, brick by brick. The echo chamber had gone silent, or worse, it had turned against me. I was cancelled, not by some grand corporate conspiracy, but by the very community I sought to judge. I looked around the room, meeting glances that were no longer wary, but openly disdainful. In their eyes, I saw my reflection, not a digital inquisitor, but a perpetrator. The victim role, my ultimate currency, had finally run out of value. The silence was deafening, and this time, it was all for me.